Hello, this is Brandon P.T. Davis, theatrical scenic designer. And in this tutorial, I'm going to just show you how I would approach modeling a table. So the first step is, of course, finding the table in the real world, or perhaps you're designing a table from your mind. Either way, I like to have a reference, so I've copied and pasted this reference into my Vectorworks file. And one of the things that I always recommend when starting a new project is to save your Vectorworks file so you won't lose it. So I'm going to go to save and call this project table project. But you might have a specific workflow in which you need to save your project as, and if that's the case, then do so. So with this image here, I think one of the first things you want to do is, right now it says it's 12 foot tall by, 12 foot 9 by 14 foot 9.5, which I think that's probably a little bit big. So what I would recommend doing is to scale your project. So I think this table, knowing what I know about tables, is probably about 30 inches tall. We want to scale the project so that when we're tracing elements of the project, we'll have something to kind of base our something to base reality off of, I guess is the best way to put it. So as I look at this object, I see we have the top, which is probably a couple simple extrudes, and we have these legs, which I would say are going to be sweep, and then we have these cross pieces here, which is again probably a simple extrude. So I think what I probably want to do is I'm going to start with getting the top just kind of laid out. So I'm going to take a circle tool, and I'm going to go, I think I want to go from outside to outside. So right now it says it's roughly 2 foot 5 point, so I think we'll just kind of round this down. Probably makes the most sense. So let's say the tabletop is 2 foot 5, and I'm just going to go ahead and shuffle this up to the top. The other thing, then I'm going to duplicate real quick. If I hold B, I can actually see behind my shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit X, and I'm going to select the object so I can make it a little bit smaller for this other detail. And so it's about, says it's about 1 foot 1.447, so we'll round that to a 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to take this from the center handle and we'll drag these guys on top. So I think that's probably a good way to start. And we have 4 legs. So you can take the tape measure tool, which is hotkey T. It says about 2 inches. So I think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 inch for the sides. So if I hit 4 twice, I can actually create the square relatively quickly. So from the center, it's about here. If I look at this, yeah, it looks about right. It looks like it's inset a little bit. So what I'm going to do is hit Control or Command M. Sometimes software to record and the software to use the software don't play well together. So that's the move tool. Control M, and I'm going to offset this by try 1/4 inch. You can also come over here and just adjust the x-axis. So maybe it's a 1/2 inch inset. I think we're going to try 1/2 inch inset first. I think that probably looks about right. So to get these equally distributed, I'm actually going to use the mirror tool. So I'll mirror directly here, and then if I go 45, I get the other side, and then go back to 90-degree angle, or 180 degrees, I guess. And so that's about where the legs are going to stand. So we know that the legs are going to be about 2 by 2 square. And then this cross piece is I would say probably about 1.5 inches because it's definitely inset from this kind of rectangular leg here. So what I'll do is I'm going to duplicate this guy. I'm going to take the width, I'm going to minus 1/2 inch. Oh, I'm going to have to do it the other way. Minus 1/2 inch. And then I'll stretch him out to be the other side. And then I'll duplicate and then rotate. And so that completes that. If we want to be a little bit accurate with our mapping, I think what we'll do is we'll clip the surface. So I have basically kind of a 2D representation of all the parts, but I think before I get into that too much, I think what I want to do is I'm going to do the sweep of the leg. So what I usually do is, draw kind of the bottom, try to hit close to center. But of course, with this being in perspective, I think what we're going to do is we're going to really worry about getting the center of the curved parts. And then since we're doing a sweep, I'm going to duplicate this line, and then I'm going to move it over 1 inch because we've decided that these are no longer than 2 inches. So that will be the rectangular part. So right now the line is about 2'3" 0.6. So since we're tracing, I'm going to augment this a little bit. I'm going to say it's 2'4" for now. 2'4". So I say it's 2'4.224. So there we go, 2'4". And I want it to touch this bottom line because this bottom line will be kind of the reference for the model. So now I'm going to draw the rectangular parts because these will be extruded later. So this is about 3 inches. And then we have another one that's going to be on the top. So since this one is going to touch our 2'4", our end point is going to be about here. Looks like it's a little bit shorter. So we go from the bottom. Actually, I want to go from the top because that is our end point. So from the top down, I'm going to say it's 2 3/4, so 2.75. 75. 1 inch thick. And then if I measure down to here, 1 foot 6 1/4. With furniture, that's probably pretty close. And I'll just go ahead and leave it at 2 inches. So now I'm going to use the polyline tool. The polyline tool. So if I hit 5, that's our fast hotkey polyline tool. And I'm just going to trace the object the best that I can. So we'll go here, there, and another one here. If I hold shift, I can make sure that things stay parallel. So that's like the first curve. It might be a little bit simplified, but I think for our purposes, it's going to be okay. So now I'm going to start tracing out the next curve. Here we are. And I have a lot of these little segments, so actually it might be better to get this accurate as we could. We have some oval tool, we have ovals and we have circles. So what we could do is I could instead take this, duplicate it here, go inside. Looks like they're all kind of hitting about here. Since this would be turned wood, I'm not really necessarily worried about it being as accurate. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the oval tool. More oval tool. And what I'll do instead is I'm going to try to in order to try to keep these consistent, I'm going to place this one here. I'm going to hit Control and Shift so I can drag these in alignment so they're kind of centered. So that one's a little bit bigger. I think that one's supposed to be the same size. So stretch this guy out a little bit. And then I think maybe we need a little bit more length here. So I think that's probably pretty close. So I'm going to hold Control Shift for this guy. And let me look. This one is a little bit bigger, so it's this and this. I think this one matches with that one. And then we have like smaller parts. So I'll duplicate this guy. Just bring it in a little bit. I think we're going to go with that for now. I don't think there's one there, so I'll delete. Actually, I don't have to delete it because I probably need it later. So I think this one's going to go about here. That one's going to go out there. And I'm missing a curve here. So we'll go ahead and what we'll do is we'll select all of these. One thing, I went all the way out here so that I didn't actually move this. What you can do is you can actually lock this in place. That might actually be better. So now that I can drag on top and not have to worry about moving the document. So I think that's about right. Looks like there's some smaller curves here. So I'll put our smaller curves there. And I think what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and add all this together. So add surface. And then from our center point, I'm going to use the split tool. So I'm just going to cut all these elements. So everything's selected. So I'm going to go to the selection. I'm going to hit Shift and unselect rather than having to reselect everything. And I'm going to press delete. Now we just have a profile here. So there's it's like a little bit softer in some areas. So what I could do is I'm going to kind of go inside. It's a little bit of a mess. So I think what we could do is try do a measurement first. So kind of get an idea of what. Yeah, so I have this really small fillet. So I'm going to hit 7, and I'm just going to smooth out, see what will let me smooth out. So I can't really smooth that out, which is probably fine. Because this thing's going to be so small in the long run that no one will really notice. What really is important is, kind of getting the concept of how this, piece works. So I think, I could even fillet this a little bit. So I think that's decent. So what I'm going to do next, so I have, we don't need these square pieces. We're going to do some simple extrudes for the square pieces. I actually messed up right here. So I need to cut and use that split tool to cut here because that's where one of the square pieces are. And don't really have a end point, so I'm going to just kind of draw that end point, use connect combined, combine these together. So make sure that it's in the combine mode. So now we're kind of back in business. We have a full profile. So we can actually select two shapes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this plane to screen plane. I'm going to change my view to front view, and I'm going to go right click and then model sweep. So now we have this swept, and we have that gap for our square pieces. I think this is pretty decent. So I'm going to go to top plan view. We have this guy centered. So we need a 2" by 2" block, which we already drafted. So let's kind of steal this guy here. And then I'm going to try to center it on our post. And then I'm going to steal this measurement. So 2 3/4, and I have another one at 3.186. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just extrude 2.75. I'm going to go into the front view. Oh no, where'd he go? If I go to the front view, sometimes this happens. So let's see what happened. We're a little bit lost. So our extrusion, I guess I messed that up. Let me figure out why. I guess I just didn't. Oh, I extruded it at 0. So it's extruded, but I didn't put 2.75. I have a new keyboard. It's being a little bit troublesome. There we go. So now if I go to front view, oh, that's the bottom Z. So 2.75. There. Now it has thickness. So I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to set this here, center, and then I'll hit control shift. I'm going to bring this guy here, and then we just have to stretch him out. So there's our locus at 0, 0. I also have, all the 2D draftings at 0, 0. So what we need to do is I'm going to go ahead and select our first leg. I'm going to add everything together. So add solid. And then I'm going to just shift and pull it up. So now the leg is at 0, 0. And we want the leg to be at 0, 0 because we want the model to sit on the floor, and our floor is generally at 0, 0. So if I look at the front, actually we'll go back to the model. There's a little bit of detail work on the bottom. I think that for the size of the model, because it's so small, I think it'll probably be fine. But we could have modeled this a little bit differently. I'll show you how we could do it. Maybe we'll do it that way. So as a little bit of a taper, so I'm in a plan view. So I'm going to change. Yeah. So we're in screen. I'm going to change the screen plane temporarily. So I'm going to draw from center and center, and I'm going to draw this guy. I'm going to subtract. Try a 1/2 inch. See how that looks. Yeah, I think that looks good. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to do the arc tool. Let's see if we can get this to play out right. So I didn't want that one. I wanted this one. So that's about how it looks. And then I'll mirror that because they're the same. I'm using the equal sign for the mirror tool. Of course, you have to have what you want mirrored before you mirror it. So have that selected. Whoop. I'm not halfway, but that's okay. I'll just take this, shuffle it away, set it here. This might work. So I'm going to use the connect combine tool. So to do that, you know what? There's a little bit of an error because it needs to be straight here. So this isn't going to work. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to delete this. Well, not all that. I'm going to delete our arc. So delete the arc, and then delete the other arc. So I just really want it to be soft, like right in here. So I think instead of trying to do it through the center, it probably makes more sense to do it on the edge. So if I hit B, I can look behind, I can grab that point, and grab this point, and I think we'll try that. Then I'll see what happens if I mirror it on the center. So hit equal, mirror. That's selected. Mirror tool. There we go. And then I'm going to use the connect combine. So here we are. We'll kind of combine this line. No, see, it doesn't. Not happy about that. So I think what I'll do first is I'll connect and combine this. Connect and combine that arc. And then see if it'll let me connect and combine. There we go. And see if it lets me connect and combine. And we're good. So I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to try. So I'm going to change this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if I can do a sweep. So what we'll do is go to Model, Sweep. I'm just going to keep everything the same for now. So here is our new shape. Obviously it's a cylinder. So the sweep is currently at the segments are 2.81. So if I try to do 360 degree sweep divided by 4, that should make it, yeah, that's our shape. Now what you'll notice is it's overlapping a little bit. What I do to kind of approach this issue is I'll actually just get the knife tool and then I'll just cut it once. And it didn't work. So sometimes, let me double check, see if that got cut. Aha. So I'm going to use my knife tool. I'm going to cut the selection, so I might have to just, there we go. Now, there we go. Pretty good. Looks like the way it should look. So now that we've done that instead, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go to the front view. I'm going to double click on our edit solid. I'm going to subtract this guy. So press delete. And then I'm going to paste our new one. Go back to top plan view. I think the error that I made just now is, to see, it's smaller than it should be. Let me see if I can make it bigger easily. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to exit. Come here, go to top plan. I'm going to rotate it by 45 degrees. So here's rotate. There's 45. So because I have it as a shape, I think what I might be able to do is, so I want this to be 2 inches. So it is currently 1.41 inches. So we'll see if this works. You gotta modify, scale the object, make it 2 inches on the nose. Now it's a little bit bigger. Yeah, let's see what happens here. So take this, copy it, and go back into the leg we're working on, edit solid, go back into top plan, paste, put him center, go into front. It's a little bit longer than it should be. So, a couple ways we could solve that. First is we could just modify the height. So I think that probably might be the easiest. We'll see what it looks. So 3.186, and this says the height is 4.5, so 3.186. And I have two of these. If you remember, I split it. That's fine. So now that fits. It looks pretty close to correct. Minus the fact that we only have half of one. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Then I'm going to come up, go back to front view. I'm going to duplicate this one. I'm going to drop him about here where he belongs. So the old one is 2 3/4 and the new one is 3.816. So we'll change this to 2.75. Drop him down at center. Take this. I'm going to delete that. Now I'm going to select both of these and go into top plan view because we have half of one. So I'll just simply get the mirror tool. I'm just going to mirror it over each other. And these will all be one object once I exit because we're in the solid addition segment. So exit, and we go back to plan view, and then we'll go to front. So now we have that cool little taper. So I'm pretty happy with this. I think we're going to go with this as our leg. So take this guy, set him at the center of these rectangles. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to get the height. So the estimated height of this is about 1.5 inches. That's pretty proud. And then this is about another 1.5 inches. So I think we're going to go with 1.5 inches on both of these extrudes. So I'm going to hit Command E. I'm going to make this 1.5, and then one on the bottom, Command E. Also 1.5. So I'm going to put the bottom, that's going to put it about 30 inches for the bottom Z. And I'll put the bottom Z of this one 30 inches minus 1.5 so that they're directly underneath each other. Go to the front view, so now we just need to line things up. So let me go back to our reference. So our leg is actually directly underneath, so I need to remember that. So if I go back to the front view, I'm going to select both of these objects, and then I'm going to just kind of hit B and then shift, and now they're touching. And I'm not going to be as concerned because we don't typically look at the bottom, but this is probably inset. You know, if I wanted to be concerned, I guess what I could do is I go back in the top plan view. I could duplicate or offset. I'm going to just duplicate it, subtract 1 inch. Whoop. Did not duplicate that. So I'm holding control and then one click to duplicate. Hit subtract 1 inch. So now it's, you know, 1.5 inches. Sorry, 1/2 inch off all sides. Now I'll right click, click the surface, and then delete the inner boundary. And delete. Exit. So now it looks probably a little bit more accurate from the bottom. And now we need to deal with these guys. So we know that this, you know, the support sits about 1 inch, you know, they sit about midway. So I'm just going to grab all these guys, I'm going to extrude them Now we'll see what 1.5 inches does, right? From the bottom Z, I get plus 2 inches, and that's obviously way too not enough. So another 2 inches, too much. Subtract 1 inch. You know what I could do is I could just not guess as much. Go to front, come in here, grab that center point, hold shift, and I'm having a hard time finding a center point, so guess I just don't get it. So that looks about right. Yeah, I think that's good. Actually, I think it's probably a little bit too short. So go from the center, go back to front, X. There we go. That looks about correct. Now that I have kind of all this stuff manipulated, I'm going to just go ahead and delete these 2D elements on the floor. Those are a reference, so get rid of those because I don't want those floating around, and I'll delete all these other references. You can delete them at any time, but I just kind of want to. It's good housekeeping. So the last thing we need is a little bit of a raise, which I don't think we'd see that in the model. So I think the last thing that I want to do is I'm just going to do a fillet, probably 3/4 inch on the top. So I'm going to rotate this, get go into our toolbox, get our 3D fillet. I'm going to make that 3/4 inch. It's only on the top. And let's look at that from the front. I think that, look at from the front view, I think it actually might be a little bit less than 3/4. Let's see. So if I go to, actually if I just click here, I have my fillet radius, so I could actually just modify that now without having to press undo. Half looks like not enough, so maybe if I'm going to be a little bit picky, let's see, 6/8, 3/4 minus 1/16. Yeah, I think I'm just being crazy now. So I think it's pretty good. So now the last step, of course, is we want to add some texture to our table. So let's go into our resource manager. I'm going to just look for textures. And just type in wood. And I have hundreds of wood options. And I don't have to follow the rules. I think I like this one. So we're going to go with this texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this guy. Whoop. Sorry about that. Come up to the front. Take our wood texture, slide in our project textures folder. So installed. And go to edit. It has a mirror texture, so it has a little bit of reflectivity. Could always adjust that if I wanted. I think I'm going to go with this. So I'm going to press OK. And going to now, what I'll do is, since it's all wood, I'm just going to do kind of a blanket wood texture for now. So I don't really like the direction of the grain on these posts. I want it to go the other direction. So selecting all the posts since they're all similar. Go to render. Let's try auto plane. And I think that's good. So here, I want, let's see what happens. Auto plane is kind of my first go-to. And then I'll rotate this 90 degrees, so it's going the direction that we want our wood to go. And then do the same thing. So, and when you have a fillet, it gets a little bit weird. So let's try to angle this rotation at 90 degrees as well. And same thing. So we don't really see a lot, so I think we could just simply see what happens. We go 90. That looks a little bit weird. I've hit ungroup, so now I can deal with these separately. So I want these. They're at 30 degrees, so I mistyped. Like these, 90 degrees. So now we have our object. Looks pretty similar to our image. A little bit different wood texture, but I think the project that I probably use this table in will probably have a darker wood. So I'm going to delete our reference image. So I'm going to go to, I have to unlock it. So that's how you unlock, and then delete. And there we go. I'm going to take our table, just in good practice, try to have everything, have the things that you're modeling close to 0, 0. So, we can rotate and look at it. It looks pretty good. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to hit Command K, and I'm not, because our locus is in the way, so make sure that's not selected. And what we're going to do is let's call it table. We're going to make the insertion point. We're going to use this center. We're going to make it world base unit. Could make it story aware. I think for this project, I'm not going to worry about that. So I'm pretty content with everything here. I'm going to put this in, I'll just leave it in the main folder. So now we have our 3D symbol. So if I switch to symbols on our drop down, symbol. There we go. There's our table. So it's a 3D symbol. I want to make it a hybrid symbol, so I'm just going to double click. I'm going to edit the 2D component, press OK. Since it's a table, it's really relatively simple 2D element, but it's just good to have these. So it's a circle from the outside. We need to come over here and switch to our 2D drafting. It's going to be a medium line weight. We make sure that we make all attributes by class. Press X and exit. And asks if I want to do what I want to do. I'm going to say yes. So here we are. Here is our hybrid symbol of the table. So if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out and I'll see if I can help you. Of course, press save. All right, thank you.